filed a complaint against the school, claiming Tech was not following Supreme Court guidelines in its use of race in admissions. Now the university is responding. In a statement, the school says it is, quote, committed to exploring race-neutral alternatives to enhancing diversity, end quote. Now there is a proposal to cut down property taxes, but not everyone is pleased with that idea. Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen are proposing lowering the cost of property taxes by adding a penny to the state sales tax. They say the increase will create billions of dollars in revenue to help drive down property